Welcome back to Operation Evil. This is episode 84, Left for Dead, the survival story of Jennifer Schuett. I'm your host, Nyoka.
I'm Rachel.
And before we jump into the story, I wanted to beg you all to please send in some spooky stories for our Halloween episode. Please, 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 and thank you. And you can remain anonymous. Just submit your story to operationevilpodcast@gmail.com. We've also seen some interest in Operation Evil shirts. So I think this is something we might look into. If you are interested in a shirt, will you let us know on Facebook? I just kind of want to have a idea of how much interest there is in something like that. Anyways, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. We love our supporters. And for our story today, I will say there's going to be a lot of trigger warnings. So with this story, it's going to involve a child, kidnapping, rape, and violence. If this isn't for you, then you might want to skip this one because it's kind of all over the story. But anyway.
Do you want a joke before the story?
Yeah, sure.
I stole the joke from Chaz.
Okay. Do tell.
What do you call a chicken that sees a salad?
I don't know what.
Chicken sees a salad. Chicken sees your salad. Just enlighten the mood.
We love dad jokes. You need to save one for at the end so you can lighten up the mood at the end. That'd be your job to think of one. Rough. All right, here we go.
I'm excited to hear this. This is going to be intense.
I hope I don't disappoint you. I'm going to try not to, though. This story takes place in Dickinson, Texas on August 10th, 1990. And it's about an 8-year-old girl named Jennifer Schuett. And her and her mother, it was just them two, her growing up. Her dad was in and out of prison, so she didn't have a relationship with him. And growing up, they were living in an apartment complex at the time, but they were in the process of having their own house that Jennifer's mom, her dad purchased, and they were fixing it up, and they were going to be moving in soon. But in the meantime, they were living in this apartment complex together, and Jennifer always slept in her mother's bed, always. She never slept alone. Now, in the middle of the night, though, on this particular night, her mother asked Jennifer to please sleep in her own bed because she had to get up early, because apparently when they went to their future home and they were working outside, and it was a hot day in Texas, and there were tons of mosquitoes, and she got eaten up by mosquitoes that day. So when Jennifer was sleeping, she was kicking and itching and just moving around a lot. And the mom's like, oh man, I got to get up early. Will you please sleep in your bedroom? And even though she had never slept in her own bed before, she did what she was asked. So she went in her bedroom and she turned on her little bedroom light. She got out her piggy bank and some books, and she counted money until she fell asleep. Jennifer suddenly woke up in the arms of a strange man. He was running with her, and she began to freak out and tried to scream. And that's when he took his hands and he covered her nose and mouth and told her that he was an undercover cop trying to calm her down.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So he's running with Jennifer in his arms, and he puts her into his vehicle and drives away. Everything's pretty close together as far as where their apartment is to where these other places are where he's driving. So when he drives with her away, they pass her grandmother's house, and she pointed it out to the man, and she was like, hey, you can just drop me off here. And he said, no one's home. And they ended up at her school parking lot where she just finished up the 2nd grade, and they were on summer break. This school was located 2 miles from her apartment complex, if that tells you anything. Everything was really close. In the parking lot, he offered her candy, and she refused. Now, back then, and I'm sure most of you will remember if you're around our age, they taught us kids to never take candy from a stranger, but they also told us that we can trust the police. But Jennifer's gut told her that something just wasn't right about any of it. And she listened to her gut. The man lied to Jennifer, and he said that her mother would be there soon to pick her up. But very shortly after he had said that, he drove away with her again. And he drove about a mile past the school to an overgrown lot off of a short gravel road.
Do we know what time this was?
The sun had just come up when he drove her away from the school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And when he drove and left the school, he pulls into an overgrown lot off of a short gravel road. And that was when she started to question the man about proving he was a cop. Now, Jennifer was that little kid that was like always asking questions, always curious, like to the point where she would annoy people if she asked so many questions. But this was good in this case, you know? So she's asking him, where's your gun? Where's your badge? Because she knew that a cop would have these things. He answered and he said that the gun was in the back seat. So she stood up in her seat. It was like a bucket seat. She stood up to look into the back to see where this gun was. And that's when he ripped off her underwear and he laid her down in the front seat. He then climbed on top of little Jennifer and started to lick her entire body.
Oh my God.
And what's even like, so earlier, she had actually urinated on him because she was so scared, but this did not deter him from licking her all over.
Oh God.
There were times that Jennifer would black out because he would like choke her and he was trying to break her neck. And when Jennifer tells her story, she says that he held a knife to her throat and he would say, "Am I scaring you, little girl?" And then he choked her as hard as he could until she would black out. And then he would apologize. He got her out of the vehicle and they're in the field. He takes off his shirt and he's trying to play hide and seek with Jennifer. And he does this especially when cars would drive by. And he would tell her that they needed to hide behind this bush because it was like where they were was facing the road and he didn't want other vehicles to like notice them. The next thing she remembered was waking up to him dragging her naked body through the field by her ankles. And she could feel sticks and thorns piercing her body while he was dragging her. But somehow she knew to stay quiet and play dead, which is pretty impressive that an 8-year-old like did that for like to try to survive.
Yeah, the questions and then, you know, to do this too, like, wow.
Now, at one point during these blackouts, she didn't realize it at the time. She didn't realize it, but he had slit her throat ear to ear with a pocket knife. So now that he was finished with little Jennifer, he dropped her legs and left her for dead on top of a fire ant pile. When Jennifer's mother woke up that morning and couldn't find Jennifer anywhere, she noticed that the bedroom window was open. And she went to all the neighbors in the apartment complex asking if anyone had seen her. No one had. And she called the police and they came right away and they started their investigation. And she told them that Jennifer would not run away because she was afraid of the dark. So they are out looking for her, and she is laying in the field, bleeding out with her throat slit open. Jennifer laid in that field for 12 to 14 hours, and she realized that she couldn't speak, and she only had enough strength to like throw her hand on her neck. And when she looked at her hand, she just saw so much blood. So there she is in the field, naked, sexually, physically assaulted, bleeding out. She was in and out of consciousness, but the fire ants kept biting her and waking her up. As she laid there, she was determined to remember any and everything that she could about her attacker and what he did to her. And that way, if she made it and survived, she can remember all these details to tell someone and hopefully he'll get caught. While laying there, a dog was running through the field and he discovered Jennifer. And he tried to alert his owner that this little girl needed help by running like back and forth from Jennifer to his owner, back to Jennifer, back to his owner. But the owner didn't catch on to this. So he never walked over and saw Jennifer. The dog tried. The dog really did try. So unfortunately, that didn't pan out. But there was some luck on her side because a group of kids began to like play tag in the field. And one of the kids found her when they tripped over her body. And that's when she was airlifted to the hospital in critical condition. Now, Jennifer was in really bad shape, really bad state. I mean, she looked terrible. And you're going to see a picture of her right after they like found her and took her to the hospital. But they had to prepare her mother before even entering the hospital room. And luckily, her attacker missed all her major arteries when he slit her throat. Now, she would end up staying in the hospital for a couple weeks. And the doctor said that she would never be able to speak again. That's how bad she was cut. And Jennifer's behavior was like very different in the hospital. And she was very scared of all the male doctors and staff. I mean, she was in a state of panic the entire time. If you can imagine your worst anxiety attack and multiply it by 50, that's what she was experiencing. And in addition to the hospital staff, she was frightened of the male police officers coming in and out, which would make sense since, you know, the guy told her he was this so-called undercover cop. I mean, she was looking at all these men like they were suspects and they couldn't be trusted. Now, because she couldn't speak, she had to communicate her experience and what she remembered by writing it down. And she would write these notes to her mother, and then her mother would pass them to the police. I'm just going to tell you some of the things that she would write in these notes. And they included, he said he was an undercover cop. The man drugged me. He choked me. I'm in pain. I was asleep. Looked greasy. May have had a scar or something on his face. 2 doors, dents on the car. Said his name was Dennis. The man said to take off my clothes. I said no, so he took them off. The man undressed me and licked my tutu. He drank beer right before that. Undressed me and licked me all over. I said, can I put my clothes back on? And he said, I don't want you to. So those were just a few of the things that Jennifer communicated. Now, I will actually have photos of some of these notes that she wrote, and I'll post these on our Facebook page if you would like to see them. I think seeing them puts a different like impact to you when you see this like little 8-year-old handwriting, writing this stuff out.
The details. I mean, we have said before in the past that the small little things sometimes matters so much, and she did all that. She remembered all the little details about everything.
She really does. She did a great job at remembering things. And then on top of all these notes, I mean, she was able to give the information to the sketch artist. Despite her not being able to speak, they were able to have a composite of a sketch of her attacker. And even though she, again, couldn't speak and just described her attacker, and there was a short time frame that the sketch artist had with her, they even did a sketch of the car that she described her being in. And these pictures will also be posted on Facebook for you to see. So she described her attacker as a man, as a white male, between the ages of 28 and 35, 5 feet to 5 inches to 5 feet 8 inches tall, a slim build, short dark hair, and a full darker mustache. While healing in the hospital, a miracle happened and a sound came out of her mouth. And when I was like listening to her telling these stories, they discovered this sound came out because she was like angry and just, she wanted chocolate M&Ms. That's what she wanted. And she was going to scream about it. She wanted it. And I'm glad that she did. You know, we need our chocolate. She needed her chocolate. And she was mad she wasn't getting it. So she tried to scream and this like little sound came out of her mouth. And by some chance, I mean, her vocal cords began to heal and she could speak again before she even left the hospital. I mean, what are the odds of that? Now,
It's just amazing. Like the fire ants like keep waking her up, and then
yes.
like the M&Ms give her voice back. Like that's amazing.
It's like all these little things that add up to something huge. It's so crazy. So her medical report was pretty shocking. And one thing that the doctor noted was sexual abuse, blunt anal trauma with an unknown object, physical assault. And this was important because for a doctor to document this evidence, To have this evidence from a third party that wasn't the victim or the police was like a way to help future felony convictions. So it was just more confirmation of these things that happened to her.
Yeah.
Now, life for Jennifer was tough after this happened. Even the entire community was on edge from not knowing who did this to Jennifer. Many kids were sleeping in their parents' room at this point. Um, they showed so much support for Jennifer, though, in the community. And when I was researching this story, I came across several articles of like the community throwing fundraisers for Jennifer and like barbecues and things like that. I mean, they really pulled through for her. And I just thought that was really nice. But I did find one article that really stood out to me. And it's another community supportive, article. And I saved it so I can read it to you. It says, as a parent of 4 children, and I'm sure I'm joined by the rest of the community when I say, I extend my heartfelt sympathy to Jennifer Schuett and her family. Those of us in Girl Scouts Troop 249 and other friends who know Jennifer know all too well she can brighten the places she has been. Her freckled face smile, along with her personality and style, her ability to share her happiness, all are how we know her best. We pray to God that her tragedy will not be in vain and that he will mend her heart and take away her pain. We also hope that this will not unsettle our faith, but rather serve to strengthen it each and every single day. To Jennifer and her family, we extend our love and want them to know we hold them tenderly in our prayers. I just thought that was so sweet.
That is sweet. That's very nice. Well written.
Now, the police followed up on, I don't know, more than 200 leads for this case, but like none of them were a breakthrough and the case would go cold. And you have to remember, like back in the early 90s, they didn't have the technology that we have today. They didn't have the DNA advances that we have now. And they didn't have surveillance cameras that they can go watch either. They didn't have these things. So catching someone was a lot more difficult then.
Yeah, for sure.
It really was. And unfortunately, 18 years would go by at this point.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Well, I guess you have to think about too, at the time, like all those crimes weren't fully understood the way they are now too.
they're not. And even like DNA advancing through the years, even though it was 18 years worth, I mean, the amount of DNA you would have to have back then when it was in its infancy was way too much to take a chance and ruin like what evidence you did have.
Yeah.
It's just so unfortunate that that's just the case of it. So 18 years goes by and we have a new fresh set of eyes on the case with a new detective working it. And now we have advanced DNA technologies. And now we have this chance to catch her attacker, hopefully, anyway. And on a side note, they even featured Jennifer's story on America's Most Wanted, just so you know, and they offered a reward and all that stuff.
Oh.
But the detective that took over her case, his name was Tim Cromie of the Dickinson Police Department. And so he was assigned Jennifer's case, and he was working with Agent Richard Renenson of the FBI. They were talking about the case and what they can do, and they formulated this plan, and they submitted the evidence that was collected from that scene a long time ago and put it through some DNA testing. It took a year, but 1 year later, the DNA got a hit. Now, remember when I told you when Jennifer was in the hospital and she was writing notes? He said his name was Dennis. Okay. Well, the DNA that came back belonged to 39-year-old Dennis Earl Bradford. He had been living in Little Rock, Arkansas for the past 7 years. He was previously married with 2 children and had 3 stepchildren. And he worked as a welder until the day he was arrested on October 14th, 2009. Now, Dennis served 4 of a 12-year sentence in Arkansas for the 1996 kidnapping of a 35-year-old woman he met at a nightclub. He also raped her and slit her throat. And it was that case where they were able to connect his DNA because he was in that like CODIS system.
Yeah.
But now they're like, oh, he had other arrests too. Just so you know, I just went through this and they're like, he had he had got caught with a prostitute, and I think that she would have ended up just like these other girls, but it was interrupted. Good thing for her. He also got like arrested for like intoxication and a few things like that, but he was just bad news. But now the cops are like, okay, so how do we place him in the area during this time period when Jennifer was attacked? They came across a report and an arrest in that area in 87. So that puts him in the ballpark. And they also learned that he lived in the area in 1990. And they had his ID from back then. And it was shocking to see when you see his ID from 1990 compared to the sketch that Jennifer helped build.
Oh my God.
They were very identical. I mean, wow. And that will also be posted on our Facebook for you to see. Very, very impressive. Totally the guy. I mean, you'll have to see it for yourself. All right. So they arrested Dennis and now they want him to confess because that will just make for a cleaner case. It's been 18 years. We need him to confess. We're not going to tell him that we have the DNA. We're not going to take a chance on losing this case if it went to trial by his defense attorney making up some story about how the DNA got in that area of the attack.
Yeah.
So they interviewed him for around 4 hours, and I do have a small clip of his interrogation that I want to play for you.
You ever heard the name Jennifer Schuett? Yes. You ever have occasion to come in contact with her? Yes. Tell me about that. No. My whole life for the past 20 years has been utterly and completely because of my mistake. I can tell, obviously, it's special, but I think you would, if you were to see her, I think you would be extremely proud of her. I really do. Oh, thank you. She's alive. She's alive. She's alive. You want me to tell you she is like that? Oh, God. Well, you have no idea how hard I have prayed for that. I'm a firm believer of Christ. But I had no idea. Because it wasn't but about 2 days later I ran. And I just took off.
All right. So I don't know if you can hear that clearly, but when they said if you would see her today, you would be so proud. And that's when he lost it and couldn't believe she was alive. And he was very thankful that she was alive. And I will have the link to that interrogation, that clip in our show notes if you want to watch it for yourself. So let's see here.
Jackass told her his name.
I know. Well, yeah. He didn't expect her to make it through, huh?
And she remembered it.
Yep. So during the interrogation, he said a lot of things. And the things that he said was that the car belonged to his mother and that Jennifer was so scared that he shit in the front seat of her car. And he admitted to wanting her dead so that he could have his way with her. And after he left Jennifer for dead, he took the car to a nearby car wash. And he also said that when his sketch was released to the media, he immediately shaved off his mustache and he never grew it back again. This was a random attack. He did not know the family at all. He just happened to see her bedroom light on. He was, he had this habit at.
That's what he said, that it was random?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She just happened to have her bedroom light on. Mm-hmm.
He's a special kind of sick garbage.
He really is. And on top of that, he had this habit of like driving around town and like flashing women. So there was that too. But shortly after he attacked Jennifer, he tried to commit suicide by shooting himself, but he like chickened out and shot a hole in the roof of the trailer he was living in. Dennis Earl Bradford's criminal charges included the following: kidnapping, forceful confinement, sexual assault of a minor, aggravated assault, and attempted capital murder. Now, Jennifer would stay up many nights, really late at night, writing her victim impact statement so she could read it to him at trial. I mean, she held on to all this stuff for 19 years at this point, and she wanted her day in court. She wanted to face him, but the trial would never come because 7 months into him being in jail, he would hang himself in his jail cell.
Coward.
Yeah. And it was crazy too because for 6 months, he was under suicide watch. And suddenly they were just like, yeah, you're good to go. And as soon as they do that, what does he do? Hang himself. So Jennifer never got that closure that she wanted. She never got that trial. So what she did was the next best thing. And she drove to his gravesite and she read him her victim's impact statement. I mean, she was determined to confront him one way or another. And what was really amazing is that I found her impact statement. And I thought that maybe I should read it to you guys. But do you want to hear it?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, let's hear it.
Okay. I waited 19 years, 2 months, and 3 days to find out your last name and for you to be caught. I knew your first name was Dennis because you told me that before you raped and attempted to murder me on August 10th, 1990. When you cut my throat from ear to ear, you assumed that I'd die, or if I lived, I wouldn't be able to talk. But you chose the wrong little 45-pound 8-year-old girl to try and murder because for 19 years, I've thought of you every single day and helped in searching for you. Every year that's passed has given me more strength and drive for when I finally would be face to face with you as I am today. Some may feel sad for me that it took 19 years to track you down, but I'm only sad for the others that have fallen victim to you. Wondering how you could be capable of committing such horrendous acts on such an innocent and frail little girl as I was back on August 10th, 1990, and knowing others could be harmed by you is what bothered me most of all over the years. I didn't know who you were or where you were, but in my heart, I knew you were out there, alive, either in prison or living a lie. And now I know, listening to my heart all of these years and never giving up on finding you, I was right. All of this time, you have been living a lie, keeping your secret of who you really are to yourself. Every year I spent trying to find you and bring you to justice, you spent thinking that you got away with what you did to me. You thought you got away with creeping into the window of an apartment lived in by a single mother and her daughter, and then kidnapping, raping, and almost succeeding at murdering me. Just an innocent little girl peacefully sleeping in the middle of the night on her first night in my life. I'd gone to sleep in my own bed when I couldn't fight to get away from you. What a cowardly way to commit a crime. I hoped you had sleepless nights filled with nightmares and spent every day looking over your shoulder over the years. After telling me you were an undercover police officer and telling me your gun was in the backseat of your vehicle, and me curiously looking over the front seat to look into the back, I can still think back and feel the fear I had inside of me at that very moment when you ripped my panties off of me and laid me down in the front seat of that vehicle and started to lick me. As an 8-year-old child, I didn't know what you were doing, but I knew it was wrong. I knew at that moment that you didn't know my family, and I knew that you were not a police officer like you said. In my mind, I tried to imagine what I could do to escape you because I feared for my life and knew that I wouldn't be able to get away because I wouldn't be strong enough or fast enough. As if you're putting your grown man hands around my little neck and choking me repeatedly and raping me wasn't enough, you continue to play out your nightmarish fantasy. You slit my throat, and as you dragged me by my ankles through brush and thorns, I did what came as first instinct to me. I played dead. You thought you killed me. You thought you had won this sick game you started. But again, you were wrong. You left me there in that fire ant pile like I was nothing, like I was an old rag doll you had discarded in the field as trash after having your fun torturing her. We all know the details, but as a reminder, for over 14 hours, I laid there in that field, bleeding to death, hopeless, but not alone. I had angels sitting next to me, even though I could not scream. I could not get up. I couldn't do anything physically as fire ants stung me all over my body. There was one thing I could do: pray for strength and survive. Luckily, those prayers were answered. The choices you made in that early morning hours of August 10th, 1990 have impacted my life and changed me forever. Before August 10th, 1990, I was a free-spirited little girl. I couldn't even remember ever being afraid or living in fear, besides always being afraid of the dark, as most children are at that age. You changed that. By the time I was released from the hospital, we didn't even live in our own home anymore. You put such fear into myself and family that I didn't get to go home to the home that I've known for almost 5 years. My mother and I had to move in with my grandparents. I had to be escorted to and from school, and instead of being my usual carefree self, I lived with anxiety and what I know now as post-traumatic stress disorder. I didn't know what those things were then. I didn't even know if anyone ever explained it to me for sure. But looking back on it, I realize now that me not sleeping in my own bed until 15, me living in fear of you coming back and hurting myself or my mother, and me not wanting to do anything without my mother, I wasn't like other normal children, even though my mother tried to make our life as normal as possible. When I would go into public, the grocery store, doctor's appointments, or the mall, everyone in my eyes was a suspect. And it remained that way until August 13th, 2009. For years, I've studied the faces of every male that would pass by because I'm sure I had seen you. I'd recognize you. I was scared of my own bed, scared of sleeping, scared of the dark, as a child, as a teenager. But during the day, I was constantly looking for you, trying to save others from being attacked by the person who has so viciously attacked me. The only fear I didn't have was doing anything and everything in my power to help in capturing you. I had nightmares for a year or so after you attacked me, and for a short period of time, I can remember being afraid of men. I felt like myself and my family had been violated, but the drive and determination in me to find you has kept me going, knowing one day I'd face you and know you'd never hurt another person has kept me going. Also, from the age of 5, my dream was to grow up and be a mommy of 8 boys. You also had changed that dream. For years after you attacked me, I knew something was medically wrong with me. I had gone to various doctors, and I finally found out 2 years ago, after undergoing tests and surgery, that my medical issues are a result of you brutally attacking me, and that is medically impossible for me to conceive children without the help of an infertility doctor and treatments. As a child, I can also remember locking myself in the restroom and sitting on the bathroom counter, staring at the long, ugly red scar on my neck left by you from taking a knife and cutting me from ear to ear, and asking myself what I had done to someone to do such horrible things to me. As an elementary student at the time, I had to have a tube down my throat for part of my 3rd grade year. Children and adults were curious, and I was constantly asked questions of what happened to me and why. How was I, as an 8-year-old, supposed to answer questions that I didn't even have answers to? Because of the tube in my throat, I couldn't participate in physical education like all the other children, but instead would sit in the nurse's office for an hour every day while the other children played. As a college student, I was nervous walking to and from classes in the parking lots, always frightened and worried about someone attacking or following me. I have suffered anxiety attacks at night in past years so bad that I couldn't breathe and had to sit up for hours trying to calm myself down. But today, I sit in front of you as a 28-year-old woman, And I would like you to know that I'm not a victim because of what happened 20 years ago. Your plan that night of August 10th, 1990 was not the same plan that God had for me. You have taken away my voice for a short period of time. You may have taken away a piece of my being and innocence I will never get back, but you've never taken away my strength or my will to survive. I have waited for this day for 20 years of my life and hope you now feel as weak as you made me feel all those years ago as a child, while you played out your fantasy on my tiny body and attacked me. You made me feel this small. Today, I hope you feel this small sitting in front of me, because I definitely feel like the strong one. In life, we have choices, and I made the choice early on not to let this negative and traumatic experience define me. Instead, I turned the attack into something positive, not only for myself, but for others, to use my voice to speak out against crime in hopes that myself and other survivors will conquer crime, one voice at a time. Dennis Bradford, I am not your victim. I am victorious. So there you go.
I love how she said she's victorious.
I do too.
I love it.
As you heard, she had faced many struggles, and at age 25, she discovered that she had fertility issues because of what she experienced. She was told that it was likely caused by the rape and that she would never be able to have children without the help of fertility doctors. But when a local doctor had heard her story, he contacted her and he said that he wanted to make things right, and he donated all his services to her. And so far, the IVF has been successful, and after 2 separate rounds, she has 2 children.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Today, she is a victim's advocate and a motivational speaker. Jennifer travels throughout the country to advocate for young survivors of sexual assault. And she has shared her story on I Survived. That's on A&E or LMN. I don't remember what channel. But I will list what season and what episode it was if you want to go back and watch her story and see for yourself. She's very inspirational. But that will do it for today's episode. So if you can't get enough Operation Evil, consider supporting the podcast. There's many perks to our Patreon, like bonus
Mini
episodes. Porks? Mini porks to all. But anyways, join. If you can't join, though, you could support us by buying us a coffee. That link will be in the show notes. Or if you can't support us with any money, that's fine. Tell your friends about us. Share us on Facebook. We appreciate all those things. It really does help. And now to end with another dad joke. You got one?
How does a cow do math?
How?
With a calculator.
Ha 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 ha. That's another Chaz joke, right?
Yeah. I think I said it right.
Yeah, I think you did.
Oh, thank you for telling us this story.
You're welcome. That was a mouthful. So there you go. All right. And until
Jennifer
next time.
and Polly rule the world.
They do. I would love to have Jennifer on. That'd be great. You're going to have to contact her. But anyway, that's all I have for you. Goodbye. You want to say bye? Bye, guys.
I was like, bye. Bye.
Bye.